How far else do we
I told
guys
that.
my life,
Because it's just an act.
Look at his face.
Wait, all right, Sopranos, I mean, outro.
We can hear them. Hey, Bruno. Hey, Bruno, we can hear them.
Nikki,
What is
We
that?
can hear all of them. I said we can hear all of them. We can. Loud. We sound young. I am young.
I'm only 17.
I'm young, done this work. Young, high praise, no, hallelujah. I want hallelujah.
Okay.
So we can do hallelujah.
What's verse 2? What she got?
I mean, we don't know verse 1. On there.
What you gonna do when your back's against the wall? How you gonna smile when you see
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to call to order the 2018 Spring Representative Assembly of the Ohio Education Association. Please stand for the opening ceremonies.
More time, march. Left, face. Present, arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we look to you today and in the days ahead for guidance. We are not put here on earth to sit idly by and watch as events sweep us away into a black hole of turmoil. As creations of God, we are not helpless. As educators, parents, citizens, leaders, and students, we have the ability to be agents of change with the power to influence the outcome of many events. We've faced many challenges and events in recent months. These events have tested our resolve, made us question our beliefs, and perhaps our faith. We look to you for strength as we move into more uncertain times. Help us deal with the challenges the way they are, not the way we'd like them to be. Together, though, we can plan for the outcomes we hope for with your guidance. The words of Martin Luther King Jr. also remind us it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. Please give us your wisdom so that educators, parents, local, state, and national leaders have the strength and the will to do the right thing on behalf of our students, our public schools, our communities, and our future citizens. Amen.
Order, arms. Right, face. Forward, march.
Please be seated. Before the music group leaves, I've asked them to sing one more number for us. Join me in thanking the David H. Ponas Career Technology Center Junior ROTC and their instructor, Master Sergeant Michael Bersher. Well, that sure was exciting. That's better, I have to say, than last year at the NEA-RA in Boston when something like that happened and I was on the very top floor. I think I was on the 28th floor. And at that hotel, a little voice came on and said, until another voice comes on, don't leave your room. And I'm like, what? Okay, so finally then a little voice came on and said, it is time to leave your room. And so I started walking down the 28th floors, and in the middle of it they said, you can go back up to your room. So anyway, but the choir has left, but let's please thank the Trotwood Madison High School singers, directed by Angela Bruno. And OEA Board of Directors members Sue Bills and Ann Bowles for leading our opening ceremonies. I must say it looks really nice to look out and see all the red in the room. The last time I think I saw so much red was when I was in Bloomington for an IU football game against Ohio State, and you have to know how that game turned out. It wasn't, the Hoosiers did not win that day, but anyway, yeah, that other school, Tim, won. But anyway, it is so good to see all of you here today. Thank you for being here. As we get to the business of the organization, we invite your full participation in the deliberations of this RA. I want to call your attention to the 3 microphones distributed throughout the audience. Chairs are reserved for those waiting to speak at a microphone. There are several Convention Planning Committee members near the microphones should you need assistance today. And before we continue, I have a few announcements. This is an OEA members-only meeting. We are a friendly forum and require that you get consent before audio and/or video recording someone's conversation. Please be sure your credentials are clearly displayed. There are ample restrooms outside the doors in the concourse area, and you can get snacks or drinks on the concourse level 1. Water stations are positioned in the exhibit area and at the back of the ballroom. The voting and lunch break will be 2 hours today. Please make sure you're back within that time frame. Normally, the first order of business when we return from lunch is the FCPE Awards recognition. We are going to recognize everybody today by reading the names of the recipients of all the categories as they walk across the stage to receive the award. FCPE award recipients, please remember to come back from the voting lunch break 15 minutes prior to the start of the afternoon session to line up just in front of the stage to my left. The deadline for submitting resolutions items is 11 o'clock today, and the deadline for submitting new business items is 9:30 tomorrow. The forms for submitting new or amendments to the resolutions or new business items can be obtained from the table in front of the referral table. You do not have to take the sample from your handbook. Again, this spring, we have blue cards to be filled out for those who wish to make a point of personal privilege or raise a question of privilege. To help expedite the business of the association, I will handle points of privilege before we adjourn each day. Please ask a floor assistant or visit the referral table for this blue card. Registration officially closes at 10:30 today and 10 o'clock tomorrow. Delegate credentials are not replaced under any circumstance, so it is important that you do not lose or misplace them. After registration closes, any delegate that has not officially registered can still be seated. Please have the delegate meet with the Credentials Committee either at the registration or at the table in the back of the room. You, as a delegate, cannot go to a microphone to seat a late delegate. Please note that delegates and all guests must wear a badge to enter the assembly. At the Fall RA, we asked delegates to engage on social media using the hashtags OEA Strong and OEA RA. And delegates did an amazing job posting pictures and tweeting. So today I'm asking you again to tell us and everyone out there what OEA means to you. If you have a Twitter account, we want you to share what OEA means to you with the hashtag OEA Strong, or if you hear something during today's RA that really resonates with you, please share that on Twitter with the hashtag OEARA. During today's proceedings, we hope to highlight some of your tweets on the screens. So let's begin tweeting. Throughout the day, I may receive complaints about the noise level in the assembly room. Please be considerate of your fellow delegates and step out into the lobby if you need to have a conversation. And finally, as a friendly reminder, please set all electronic equipment on silent. Thank you very much. I will say that sometimes I've been told I get too far away from the microphone like this. So if you can't hear me, if someone would just, raise your hand, that'll give me the signal to get closer to the microphone. Okay. So it is now my pleasure to introduce to you our platform guests. Before I begin the introductions, I ask that you please hold your applause until I have finished. At the table to my right is your Vice President, Scott DeMauro, your Secretary-Treasurer, Tim Myers, your Executive Director, Cheryl Mathis, Assistant to Cheryl, Tina O'Donnell, my Assistant, Brianna McKay, and Assistant Executive Director, Business Services, Christy Spires. At this time, I would like to recognize the members of the 2017-2018 OEA Board of Directors. Representing Capital is Angel Dyer Sanchez. Representing Central is Ty Tapman, Aaron Salzer, Dwayne Marshall, Susie Heddersheet, Mark Hill, Jeff Cavano, and Amy Grittani. Representing ECOEA is Cynthia Endress, Ann Bowles, and Geneva Parker. Representing EOEA is MJ Burkett. Representing NCOEA is Rob Fetters. Representing NEOEA is Misha Baker, Amy Butcher, Marshall Josie, Terry Mackey, Melanie Hamid, Rob McPhee, Deborah Lipnos, Larry Ellis, Barb Armour, and Tammy LaPlante. Representing NWOEA is Dan Greenberg, Jerry Oberhaus, and Amanda Dyer. Representing SCOEA is William Van Pelt and Brenda Lemon. Representing SWOEA is Thomas McGowan, Tyler Meyer, Lonnie Douche, Carol Nance, and George Gonzalez. Representing WOEA is Susan Bills and Joyce Coney-Lacey. Representing the OEA Board of Directors at Large are Tammy Kuntz, Tamika Moss, and Lena Jordan. Representing the ESPs at Large is Cheryl Williams. Representing the Ohio Student Education Association is Levi Kunzelman. Representing OEA Retired is Carol Kinsey. Representing Higher Education is Samuel Adopuku. And OEA has 6 NEA directors. They are Emily Osterling, Sophia Rodriguez, Kim Richards, Angela Stewart, Jeff Rhodes, and Robin Jeffries. And NEA ESP at-large directors, Andrea Beeman and Hasheen Wilson. I want to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to the members of the Board of Directors. They work very hard on your behalf and the associations. Thank you. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce the 10 district presidents. From Capital, Kristen Crombie-Stodik. Central, OEA NEA, Adrian Bowden. ECOEA, Julie Nelson. EOEA, MJ Burkett. NCOEA, Jen Leopard. NEOEA, Jeff Wensing. NWOEA, Jennifer Long. SCOEA, William Van Pelt. SWOEA, Phyllis Bell. And from WOEA, Ellen Jordan Isaac. We also are lucky enough today to have a few past presidents with us. Joining us today are Don Traxler, president from 1973 to 1974. Don. And Don Wilson, president 1979 to 80, and also 1982 to 1988. it is an honor to have both Don Traxler and Don Wilson with us today. And right now, we are going to have Don Wilson speak to us for a few moments at the microphone.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I assure you that my brief remarks will not set you afire. Distinguished NEA, OEA leaders assembled here on the platform, members of the Student Education Association, and fellow delegates. I'd like to give a special shout out to the Palmer delegation and the NEOA delegation headed by Jeff, since they were the ones that got me started and supported in my service to the association. I appreciate President Higgins giving me a few minutes for a few reflections. This will be my last OEA convention. I'm pushing 85 years of age and moving to an area outside of this for retirement. Delegates, there have been two great experiences in my life. One has been my long 59-year marriage to my good wife, Jane, who was a leader and a teacher in Southwestern, and the blessing of 3 sons. The second one has been my experience as OEA president. It's been the second greatest experience of my life. However, I must warn you before I continue my brief remarks that I'm surprised your leadership has allowed me to speak, because there's been a certain natural phenomena that has followed me in my personal and professional life, and that phenomena are earthquakes. These are all true. It began when my wife and I were on our honeymoon in Yellowstone National Park. We just left the camping ground and an earthquake hit, killing several campers. Later on, when our 3 boys were grown, we camped in Golden, Colorado. We left that campsite and an earthquake occurred. I visited friends in Los Angeles when the earthquake occurred. I visited our overseas teachers representing an NEA program, and I flew out of the Tokyo International Airport. They had both the earthquake and the tidal wave. But my most memorable one was in Louisville, Kentucky. My wife and I decided that she would go along because we were separated because of association work. In fact, she went along so we could recollect our honeymoon. In fact, I was in the midst of one of my best recollections when the earthquake hit.
Oh, sorry. Move away from it. Now, Don.
It scared the hell out of me, and darn near woke her up. Now, OEA, through its long history, has created its own type of earthquakes. OEA has increased resources and innovations necessary to improve public education and to benefit the students we all serve. I can recall with great joy my visits to many thousands of teachers as president, in locals and in districts, and saw their dedication not only to the profession, but their dedication to improve their students' lives and prepare them for a very complicated and very interconnected world. Allow me to quickly review a few of the actions, past and present, taken by the OEA, which has supported public education and our students. The passage of the collective bargaining bill in 1982, I was so proud to be your president that year. Political action, EPAC, which showed that we understand that now that elections matter. Lobbying and legislative action has increased resources for education greatly. Uniting with support personnel, renewed emphasis on professional development, sharing SDRS policy and shaping that policy, employing great staff at all levels, extending officers' terms, involvement of women and minority caucuses and student caucuses, and creation, important for me, of the Retirement Association. And lastly, we have built coalitions with other statewide groups to support common goals. In closing, I know you have faced many, many obstacles and have conquered them. I can recall, as president, visiting a very bitter strike with the Canton teachers. That strike was bitter because we had an intransigent board and a vindictive board. I will share this story with them, and I think some of you can identify with this. I told them about the Arab sheikh who visited the United States with his 3 sons. They enjoyed themselves, and the sheikh said to his sons, "Since you enjoyed America so much, name something you liked, and I'll give it to you." The first son said, "Well, I really like flying," and the sheikh brought him United Airlines. The second son said, "Well, I really enjoy driving," so the sheikh brought him General Motors. The third son said, "Dad, I got everything I want, but I did enjoy Disneyland. Why don't you buy me a Mickey Mouse outfit?" So the sheikh bought him the Canton Board of Education. I am confident that you, as a new generation of leaders, will further the great and proud legacy of this great organization. I am confident that you will be prepared, whatever the Supreme Court decision is in the Janus case, where the question of whether government employees who are not members of the union but are covered by a union contract should have to contribute to the union's costs for contract negotiations. You bet their life they do. In the words of Abraham Lincoln, all that harms labor is treason to America. I salute you for your leadership in enhancing public education, elevating the status of your colleagues, and enabling your students to succeed. I am thankful that I have had a part in that long and great OEA legacy. Now, I bid you a fair farewell, and in case of earthquake, hold on to your seats. Thank you.
Yeah, let's please thank both Dons very much for all their work for OEA. Fire drill and humor. That's a good way to start off an OEA. So the floor assistants are here to, among other things, assist with distribution of materials to delegates. Robin Durant from EOEA is the chairperson, and I would like all the floor assistants to stand right now and be recognized. So if you're a floor assistant, they have a big job to do. Thank you. Many members of our field staff and almost every employee in the headquarters office are involved in one way or another to prepare for this RA. I want to thank all of the staff for their assistance in making this a successful event. Thank you very much. And we want to make sure that we recognize our first-time delegates and make them feel welcome. So if you are attending the RA for the first time, if you would please stand. Thank you. We continue to get many new delegates. Please be sure to look around and welcome them as the days go on. And if you didn't get a yellow first-timer ribbon when you registered today, stop by and pick one up at registration or see a floor assistant. So if you are a seasoned delegate, please do your best to make these new delegates feel welcome. And I've shared my first-time delegate story with many of you, and I truly want everyone here to feel welcome. So I would like everyone right now, again, to stand up and for the next minute or so, introduce yourself to someone who's standing around you, someone who you don't know, and just talk to each other and introduce yourself. So for the next minute, let's just get to know each other. going to be a while, so I would go and sit with you.
So, when we get close to that, I'll come get you and I'll bring you others. Okay, so
Betsy, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you,
hope that was
Don.
okay.
It was fun. Thank you, and enjoy retirement. Okay, if everybody would take their seats. All right, we're going, if everybody would take their seats, please. And I'm just going to go over it really fast because some people haven't heard my story. But I will just say that when I was the first-time attendee at the OEA Summer Academy years ago, I came down by myself. I didn't have anybody from my local with me. And the whole time I was there, I did not have one person come up and introduce himself to me or entered in a conversation with me. And it didn't feel really good. And I went home and I thought, should I be part of this organization? And I decided to give it another try. And obviously it worked out. But I know how important it is for people to feel welcomed. Sometimes it makes the difference between people never coming again or coming back. So please today, if you see other people that you don't know, if you would just introduce yourselves to them, and you never know, it could make a real difference in someone's life. So thank you. So I would also like to recognize another group of delegates. I want to honor those among you who have given many, many years to public education. So I would like to ask everyone who is retiring at the end of the school year to please stand. Anybody? One, two. I see one person and who? Oh, Nan, and one, and Tim. Okay, well, thank you all for all the years of service you've given to your students and your fellow public education members. It's really appreciated. So at this time, I recognize Lisa Gunler of the Credentials Committee for a preliminary report. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam President. As of 9 o'clock this morning, there were 319 delegates registered from last night's registration. On behalf of the committee, I move the acceptance of the preliminary credentials report.
Okay, the motion before you is to adopt the preliminary credentials report. All those in favor of adopting that report, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion has carried. You've adopted the preliminary credentials report. Lisa, thank you very much. Please refer to page 17 of the delegate handbook and note that according to Standing Rule 101, it is necessary to adopt the standing rules before we adopt the agenda. At this time, I present to you Kathy Abrahamson, Chair of the Convention Planning Committee, to present the standing rules. I would like right now, though, all of the members of the committee to stand and be recognized. Everyone on the convention planning, if you would stand up. And I want to thank the committee members for assisting with the operation of today's assembly. They have the responsibility of making the RA run smoothly, and I appreciate all their diligence. Kathy.
Thank you, Madam President. At the March 2018 meeting of the Board of Directors voted to support the following changes of the standing rules. As the Chief Election Chair of OEA, the Secretary Treasurer Tim Myers brought forth changes that will strengthen the rules around the campaigns of OEA and statewide delegates. If you could please turn to page 23 in your handbook of the standing rules, 605. The word declared has been added in 2 places, along with the new sentence, on the candidates who are nominated from the floor. On page 25 of the standing rules, 7.2, the word declared candidates were added in the phrase under the group. And the following, the page 26, the standing rule, section 8 of campaign committee, the language was added under to the complete and submit the delegate of this. On behalf of the planning committee, we move for the adopted village bill.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing no one at the microphones, all those in favor of adopting the standing rules, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The motion is carried. You've adopted the standing rules as printed. Thank you very much, Kathy. Since you've adopted the standing rules, Rule 1.02 calls for the adoption of the agenda by the delegates. The agenda is found on pages 7 and 8 of your delegate handbook. We will, of course, adopt the agenda with flexibility, but I do have some changes for you to note. We are moving the Teacher of the Year from Friday afternoon to Friday morning following the President's report. The budget report will then follow the Teacher of the Year presentation. The NEA Director's Report has been moved to Friday afternoon following the FCPE Awards. The Friend of Education Award will be presented this afternoon following the NEA Director's Report. Please add the OEA GLBT Issues Advisory Council Report following the legislative update on Saturday. Also, we may have some special guests joining us throughout the RA. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda with flexibility? The chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 2.
Jeff Rhodes, North Royalton EA. I move to adopt the agenda with flexibility.
Do you have a second?
Lena Jordan, Hilliard City Schools, I second.
Okay, would you like to speak to your motion? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. Motion's carried. The agenda is adopted with flexibility. Here to assist me on questions of parliamentary procedure is James Connors. If you have a goal or something in mind that you are trying to accomplish but don't know the best way to do it, please contact a convention planning member near a microphone or go to the referral table and they will assist you to see that you speak with James. The basis of parliamentary procedure is that the will of the majority be done. To enable the Assembly to transact business efficiently and fairly, to protect the rights of each individual by assuring that minority views are heard, that the majority rules, and most importantly, to preserve a spirit of harmony within the group. The chair will be fair and impartial insofar as humanly possible. The purpose of debate is to ensure that each of you fully understands the proposals before you and to provide both the proponents and opponents of motions the opportunity to explain the implications of the motions as they view them. The chair will attempt to give both sides on an issue the opportunity to fully present their views. Please be considerate, professional, polite, and most of all, please keep in mind that our purpose here is to advance the cause of public education and the interest of our members across the state of Ohio. So, delegates, it's time once again to kick off the fundraising drive for the OEA Fund for Children and Public Education.
Yay!
As we enter the home stretch of the 2018 election cycle, every dollar that you contribute will help build our resources. Resources to help to re-elect Senator Sherrod Brown, elect an ally to the governor's office, and elect other statewide office holders who can impact legislative district lines for the next decade. You know what's at stake. We must be successful in 2018. The last time a new governor who was not our friend, took office in 2011. We saw an assault on our collective bargaining rights through Senate Bill 5 and deep cuts in state funding of public education. We cannot afford to go down that path again. We owe it to the students we serve and the profession we love to do all that we can to win in 2018. The lifeblood of our electoral efforts in 2018 will come from OEA's FCPE. We need to deepen the well from which we can draw resources to support our friends and defeat our foes. So we ask you to contribute this weekend and then go back to your locals and make sure that they too give to FCPE and join us in electing pro-public education candidates up and down the ballot. We would like to recognize the great work we have done this year to expand the number of members who participate in OEA's FCPE. Since September 1st, 2017, 12,684 contributions have been made to FCPE for a total of $335,000. Let's give a clap for that. That's a good amount, but I know we can do more than that. I ask those of you here today that if you have not given, please do so. There is an FCPE fund table just outside the ballroom, and staff will be glad to help you contribute. At every representative assembly, we encourage delegates to contribute to the OEA Fund for Children in Public Education. Last spring, delegates to the assembly contributed a total of $31,698 to the fund. And you can see here a breakdown of contributions by district. OEAR took first place with an average per delegate contribution of $86.63. Second place went to delegates from SCOEA, who contributed an average per delegate amount of $57.67. And third place went to delegates from SWOEA, with an average per delegate contribution totaling $49.36. As usual, contributions will be counted by district association. At this RA, we have a goal of an average per delegate contribution of $50. As always, your support is needed for the OEA Fund for Children in Public Education. If your personal circumstances, though, make that amount unrealistic, please make some contributions so that we can move towards 100% participation. Last spring, we had an average participation rate of 81%. The fund table will remain open all day today and until at least 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Every member who goes to the FCPE table will receive a ticket for an entry in our giveaway contest for a chance to win some money. Will you be a lucky winner in the giveaway drawing tomorrow? Thank you. And that's one of the things I love to do best during the RA is giving away that money. Yes? Oh. So I have an update. These are from the District Spring 2018 RAs, FCPE per contributing delegate. So from Capital, $46.64, Central, $22.30, ECOEA, $46.44, EOEA, $9.44, NCOEA, $29.82, NEOEA, $25.63, NWOEA, $33.91, SCOEA, $26.54, SWOEA, $34.23, WOEA, $49.83, and retired, $52.79. For a total of District Spring RA's FCPE contributions for a total is $11,000.304. Thank you. $304.07, excuse me. Okay. So, To facilitate the business of the convention, we have a referral committee chaired by Jerry Oberhaus, who also serves as the chair of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. At this time, I'll ask Jerry to comment on the role of the committee. Jerry?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam President, and good morning, delegates. The referral committee is seated beside the stage to your left. All resolution, new business, and Constitution and bylaw items must be turned into the referral committee table. If you have an issue of concern and you need assistance in determining how to present your concern to the Assembly, we can help you decide whether the matter is a resolution item, whether it requires a new business proposal, or whether you need a petition for the Constitution and bylaws. As a reminder to all of you, the deadlines for submission of items are as follows. New business items related to the proposed budget are due by 10:30 a.m. today. Requirements for proposals to amend the proposed budget are detailed in the OEA bylaws 2-4. New business items resolution items are due in by 11 a.m. today. New business items are due by 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Petitions for Constitution and bylaws can be accepted right up until the end of the Assembly when they have to be announced by title. I refer you to page 11 of the Delegate Handbook for review of the procedure for submission of all resolution and new business items. Additionally, on pages 12 and 13, you will find sample forms that must be filled out for any item you wish to bring before this representative assembly. These forms are also available at the referral table. When you approach the referral committee table, we will record the time you arrive and issue your item a number. It is important that you keep your deadlines in mind and that you have worded your issue as concisely as possible. It also helps if you keep your rationale separate from the actual wording of the item. Please include what it is you want done, who should do it, when it should be completed, and how much it is going to cost. If you need any assistance in those areas, the referral committee is here to help you. We look forward to seeing you, and please come to the referral committee table if we can assist you in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. One of the reasons why I had asked you all to wear red today is because, as you know, the states of West Virginia, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Arizona, Colorado, and this coming Wednesday, May 16th, North Carolina, they have all worn red as they have fought their battles in their states. And so today, at some point, it's probably going to be in the afternoon now, Tina, I have asked somebody to come and take one of those aerial pictures of everybody out here, you know, so that we can use that and share it with the other states to show that we are standing in solidarity with them as they continue their fight. So I really do appreciate you all wearing your red, and I think it's going to make a really great picture later on. So thank you. So I now recognize Adrienne Bowden, Chairperson of the Nominations Committee, to present the Nominations Committee report. Adrienne?
Thank you, Madam President. In accordance with OEA Bylaw 8-5, the Nominations Committee met to hear the nominations for positions where there are fewer than 2 declared persons. The following statewide positions have fewer than 2 declared persons: NEA Director number 6 and OEA Board of Director at Large. At this time, there are no nominations for those 2 positions.
Okay. So I will now open the floor for nominations. Are there nominations for the office of NEA Director number 6? Are there nominations for the office of NEA Director number 6? Are there nominations for the office of NEA Director number 6? Seeing no one at a microphone, I declare the nominations for NEA Director number 6 closed. Are there nominations for the office of OEA Board of Directors Member at Large? Are there nominations for the office of OEA Board of Directors Member at Large? I recognize the delegate at microphone 1.
Gretchen Washington, OEA retired. I would like to nominate Deborah Jackson of Princeton City Schools.
Okay, she needs a second.
I do.
She needs a second. No. Okay. You don't need a second. Okay. Was that the second time or the first time I did it? That was the first time I did it. Are there nominations for the office of OEA Board of Directors Member at Large? Are there nominations for the office of OEA Board of Directors Member at Large? Seeing no one at the microphone, I declare the nominations for OEA Board of Directors Member at Large closed. Since there were no nominations from the floor for NEA Director number 6, we will dispense with the candidate speeches at this time for that position. Article 5, Section 3C of the Constitution and Standing Rule 6.03 states, in the event that other nominations are closed and there is only one candidate on the ballot for a position, the secret ballot election shall be dispensed with, and the unopposed candidate shall be declared elected to the position. Write-in voting shall be prohibited in all elections subject to this section of the Constitution. Therefore, for those uncontested offices where there were no nominations from the floor, the candidates are hereby declared elected by acclamation. Congratulations, Ms. Bowden. Deborah, where are you? Deborah, if you want to come up to the stage right now. And Lena? Okay. First is Secretary Treasurer, right? Okay. Yes. Can you go up there? Okay. We will now proceed with the candidate speeches for OEA office. The speaking order for each office will be alphabetical by last name. Standing Rule 6.05 on page 23 provides as follows. Each declared candidate for Secretary-Treasurer shall be given the opportunity to make a 10-minute speech to the Assembly on behalf of his or her candidacy. Secretary-Treasurer candidates shall also be given a total of 10 minutes to answer questions by the delegates in the Assembly. We will first hear speeches from the candidates running for Secretary-Treasurer, followed by their question and answer period. This morning, the candidates drew for speaking order to respond to questions. Each candidate's response shall not exceed 1 minute. Once we are done with the Secretary-Treasurer candidates, we will proceed with the NEA Director number 5 candidates, and then we will proceed to the OEA at-large candidates. In order to clearly see which candidate delegates would like to ask a question of, we have designated each microphone as followed. Now, this is for Secretary-Treasurer. If you would like to ask a question of both candidates for Secretary-Treasurer, please go to microphone 2. Both candidates, microphone 2. If you have a question for Mr. Hill only, please go to microphone 3. Mr. Hill only, microphone 3. If you have a question for Ms. Jeffries only, please go to microphone 1. If you already know you have questions for those two candidates, I ask that you go ahead and move to the microphones now in order to expedite the process. I will start with a question for both candidates at microphone 2, then move to microphone 1, and then to microphone 3. If time permits, I will rotate the order and call on microphone 2, then microphone 3, and microphone 1, in that order. So again, 2 is for both candidates, 1 is for Ms. Jeffries, and 3 is for Mr. Hill. And I will remind you that 10 minutes is just a 10-minute time frame. When the clock starts, it's how much we can get done in those 10 minutes. Okay? So we will first start with Mr. Hill.
Thank you, President Higgins, and good morning. I want to begin by telling you my union story. My mom was the secretary of my high school, Paulding High School in Northwest Ohio. As an ESP, she didn't get paid a lot of money, but she loved her job, and our family needed it to make ends meet. All the kids in our school liked Mom, and I knew that because they'd come up to me in class and say, "Dude, your mom is so cool," which was kind of awkward for me. But the bad thing was, whenever I got in trouble at school, Mom always knew. That was awful. Mom often reminded me that our family needed the insurance benefits her union bargained. She had a lot of time to do this because, well, I broke a lot of things as a kid, but mostly I broke parts of my own body. Ankles, knees, teeth, you name it. We needed Mom's insurance to cover my bills. Mom cared enough about her union to become local president, but she didn't run for another term because it was too stressful, and that's totally something I can understand, being a local president for 8 years. My dad was a truck driver who worked for a non-union shop. He told me that if he could ever join a union, he would, because union jobs had better pay and benefits. To my dad, sick days were days without pay, and vacation meant 10 days per year paid at minimum wage. There was no health insurance, and a personal day meant the boss gave you the day off without pay if he felt like it. Whenever my parents would come visit me as an adult, I took a personal day to spend time with them, and Dad would say, "You better be careful taking days off like that, Mark. You don't want to get fired." And I'd say, "Relax, Dad. I'm allowed to do this. It's in my contract." And Dad could never get his head around that or many of the other benefits that we have. They were never part of his working experience. Thinking about how my dad never had those experiences makes me appreciate my union even more. So because of my parents, when the Columbus Education Association faculty rep came to me in 1989 with a membership form, they had me at hello. That's right. When I began working in Worthington, I asked for the membership form first. Because of those union values I learned as a kid, I worked for the betterment of our association and our members in every position I've held. I became WEA president the same year John Kasich got elected governor. And his gift to all of us in my first year was Senate Bill 5. That winter, I led a general membership meeting, and after that meeting, 200 of us marched on the State House. Later, that's right, we all did our part to gather petitions and knock on doors. I was proud of what we did together in my local, but with the rest of OEA, to gather 1.2 million signatures and defeat that piece of legislation. When I got elected to the STRS board, the time horizon to pay benefits to all our members we're counting on was infinity. And infinity is a really, really long time. Governor Kasich sent a message to our board: you fix your pension or we'll do it for you. The choice was clear. We could never let the governor and his cronies determine our retirement. All we have to do now is look to Kentucky, where their legislature attached an unfair pension change to a sewer bill in the middle of the night. We worked with OEA on making the necessary changes to our pension. We were committed to making sure all of us have a guaranteed income for life after we retire. As Secretary Treasurer, I'll make sure that our pensions, both STRS and SCRS, remain sound, and we elect board members to both systems to keep it that way. We must keep the promise of a secure pension for our retired members, and we must make sure the goalposts of retirement don't move away from us again. Throughout my work in union leadership and on the STRS board, I've been fortunate to gain the experience in finance and business we need in a Secretary Treasurer. I know what it's like to plan and manage budgets, big and small. I have experience overseeing a multi-million-dollar organization. I've conducted audits, membership drives, and successful FCPE fundraising campaigns in my local. The Secretary-Treasurer works directly with locals and promotes sound business practices through training and personal experience. Having firsthand experience with local association finance is essential to communicating effectively with local leaders and providing them with vital assistance. I've gained that knowledge as president of my local, and I am ready to step into that role as Secretary-Treasurer. The Secretary-Treasurer is also responsible for the OEA grant program. I've gotten grants for our local, and I understand the grant writing process and how to use it to engage members. As chair of the Central Finance Committee, I've worked to make sure our locals have a grant program that's user-friendly, accessible, and aimed towards helping them be more valuable to their members. As your Secretary-Treasurer, I will work to ensure the same in our OEA grant program. We are sitting on the edge of a Supreme Court decision that may alter the way we do business. I've been in meetings with other local leaders from around the state talking about how to help our members see the value of membership. We need leaders who know what it takes to engage our members. I've had one-on-one conversations with members about our union. I've gone door to door talking with early career educators in my local about the value of our union and what we should be doing to help them as educators. I know what it takes to get members involved in levy campaigns, school board races, and contract negotiations. As your Secretary-Treasurer, I will make sure OEA devotes its resources to helping local leaders communicate about the value of membership with our members. We must continue that work if we're going to remain powerful and influential from local contract negotiations all the way up to the State House. And now I want you to listen carefully. It doesn't matter what the Supreme Court does. When our members believe that being a part of our union makes us powerful and strengthens the bonds that we have with each other, then being a member of our union will be an inseparable part of what we do for our students in every role we have, whether it be as teacher, secretary, bus driver, or professor. When our brothers and sisters in low-wealth districts know they can count on us, our union, to lead the fight for a better funding system and equitable pay, then we'll have members who know the value of membership. When our ESPs know our union stands with them to demand respect for their profession and resist privatization, then we'll have members who know the value of membership. When our brothers and sisters in Youngstown and Lorain and every other district in the crosshairs of House Bill 70 know we stand with them to fight for a fair accountability system instead of one that is rigged against them, then we'll have members who know the value of membership. OEA, we have a lot of work to do, but I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and I am ready to lead. Whoa. Our cause has always been righteous because we stand up for our students and public education. We're going to build our future because when we're united, it doesn't matter what our opponents try to do. I started my career at the beginning of the collective bargaining era in Ohio, and as educators all across our nation are rising up, I'll be damned if we see it end. This is our moment, OEA, and we still have a story to write. I'm all in. Are you in with me? I need your vote for Mark Hill, Secretary-Treasurer. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Ms. Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam President. Good morning, delegates. I am honored to stand before you today as a highly qualified candidate for OEA Secretary-Treasurer. As I sat down to write this speech, my 8-year-old granddaughter entered the room and handed me these 2 index cards. She said, "Nina," I'm not a grandma, "Nina, I wrote a speech for you." As the center of all that we do as children, I'd like to begin by sharing her words. My name is Robin Jeffries. I want to be the treasurer because I want to raise money for our schools and cure cancer and raise money for people in the hospital. I love this school. It is all of me. I am saving the world by picking up the trash. This is why I want to be the treasurer. I also have 2 grandchildren that are praying for me. They hope I win, so we get to help people and travel to the people to give them food and to give them shelter. This is why I want to be the treasurer. And as they say, out of the mouths of babes. And a shout out to the Licking Heights educators, because she did that all by herself. If the reflections and thoughts of the 8-year-old and under crowd didn't persuade you, let me share with you some other pertinent facts about my unique qualifications. For those of you that don't know, I am also a PK, a preacher's kid. And the Bible says, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." I stand here before you, sharing my truth. Today represents change, an opportunity for each of you to voice your decision on who the new Secretary-Treasurer will be. Both Mark and I come to you as qualified candidates. Mark has teaching experience, financial experience through BSA and the STRS board, and experience as an officer as the president of Worthington Education Association. I too have teaching experience, financial experience through business support and administration, or BSA, and experience as an officer as the vice president of the Capital District. Our financial experience, as important as it may seem, is parallel. Mark chairs the STRS board. He and 10 other members collectively make recommendations on how to best manage STRS funds. I have sat on BSA for 11 years. I, along with 9 other members, collectively make recommendations on how to best manage OEA funds. Neither of us is solely responsible for these millions of dollars. We make financial recommendations with equally qualified board members. on how best to manage funds. So let's look beyond this seemingly level playing field. As you have seen from my bio, I have vast experience on the national level that Mark does not. NEA Racial and Social Justice Committee, NEA Professional Standards and Practice Committee, NEA Human and Civil Rights Committee, NEA caucus member, including Native American, Pacific Islander and Hispanic, Black, GLBT, Women's and Early Childhood, NEA Steering Committee, NEA Board of Directors, and NEA Director. I also have experience at the state level that Mark does not. OEA MLTP Committee Chair, OEA Social Justice Task Force, OEA Board of Directors at Large, OEA FCPE State Council, OEA Affiliate Grant Committee, OEA caucus member, including Hispanic, GLBT, Women's, and DLAMC Treasurer. Finally, at the local level, I have served for the past 23 years in a wide range of classified and certificated positions. This allows me to truly understand the needs of all members. Mark has been full-time released for almost a decade removed from the classroom. I understand the needs of classroom teachers because, well, I am a classroom teacher. My vast experience as both a classified and certificated OEA member, as well as the numerous opportunities, local, state, and national, have more than prepared me to become the next OEA Secretary-Treasurer. My opponent has spent almost a decade out of the classroom, but for good reason. He has worked to advocate for Worthington educators. That is to be commended. However, I have also been tirelessly working to advocate on behalf of educators, not only in Columbus, but throughout Ohio and throughout the country and beyond. I have done this while still maintaining a full teaching schedule. I get it. I understand firsthand the current environment and the needs of our students because I live it every single day. There is a popular show on television called The Voice. On this show, 4 judges have their chairs turned so you are unable to see the contestants as they perform. They can only hear their voices. Each performance is based solely on talent, nothing else. So imagine if you could look at Mark's qualifications and mine, placed in front of you with your chairs turned. What if each of you based your decisions solely on talent? 2 resumes side by side with no names on them. Who would you vote for? Your decision should be blatantly clear. This important decision should not be based on race, gender, or popularity, only talent. This important decision should be based on which candidate is best qualified to oversee the financial operations of OEA and to represent all members at the local, state, and national levels. 3 major qualifications to be a successful OEA Secretary-Treasurer are resilience, resolve, and respect. My qualifications clearly represent all 3. I want to be the difference maker by changing the face of the association to one of diversity and unity to attract new members. The social change agent who creates and finds new ways to improve the processes and procedures that are set in place. When one has the experiential knowledge of educational practices, she is always one step ahead, creating and thinking of ways to make things better. If elected as your new Secretary-Treasurer, I will pull back the curtain of the Office of OEA so we all have a clear understanding to how our membership dues are allocated. Just like in the movie The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy's dog Toto pulled back the curtain and revealed that there really was not a Wizard of Oz. It took Dorothy some time to come to that understanding. So we will walk this way together, and when the curtain is pulled back, don't expect to see the Wizard of Oz or Dorothy. You will see me, Robin M. Jeffries, your new Secretary-Treasurer, representing all of you, classified and certificated. I have worked many years to represent the Ohio Education Association with resilience, resolve, and respect. I have taken the oath of office on this OEA stage 6 times. I am a faithful fiduciary, and each oath I recommit with resilience the duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience out of the respect of our association and all of our members. We are all in this together. The OEA has never elected a woman to the position of Secretary-Treasurer. I am not just any woman, I am a highly qualified, trained, and vested woman. And I am prepared to do this work. Now, I need to hear your voice. The decision is clear. Let's add to President Higgins' legacy. Fill in the bubble beside Robin M. Jeffries, OEA Secretary-Treasurer. Thank you.
Okay, so I see a bunch there, and I see one there. There is one, and then I don't see anybody else. Them, and then that's Robin, and that's Mark. Okay, so if you have a question, right now, skedaddle over to 1, 2, or 3. Okay, you ready to start? Yep. And are the candidates ready? Okay, you ready? Okay, ready? Okay, I recognize the delegate at microphone 2.
Greg Potter, Jackson City Education Association. I use that word skedaddle a lot too, Becky, in lunch duty. This question is for both Mark and Robin. How and why did you initially become involved in the OEA, and what leadership positions have you held in the association to lead you to this point?
Yes, Robin, you go.
Thank you for your question. I actually became involved due to my best friend, Ty Hayden, who sits on the STRS board, who told me where I was going, why I was going, and what time to be there. And from that, because of the work that I did at the local level, a very dear friend of mine who has passed away was a board member at the time, Linda Studier, and her term was up, and she asked me if I would be willing to replace her. And so I then ran for my first term on the OEA board. Since then, I was an at-large board member. I'm currently an NEA director and the senior director, and this is my last RA as the senior director.
Okay. Thank you.
I began as a member in the state association. In 2010, I was appointed to resolutions, and after that, I became chair. And before that, after that, I ran for the board of directors because Kevin Griffin was my board member then, and I wrote him an email where I was very unhappy about the good issue too, which was redistricting, and I thought we were making a mistake by throwing in when nobody else was. So when you complain, you end up in a leader position. And that's what happened to me. But in every position that I've been in, and I told the story of my parents, and that really has guided me in how I feel about our union, because I see its value for all of us, it's our voice, and I wanted to be part of that voice at every level that I've been on.
Thank you. I next call on the delegate at microphone 1.
Belinda Dixon, Wellston Teachers Association. I've got a question for Robin. Working as treasurer requires you to maintain relationships with districts, local treasurers, and other financial staff members. In order to influence decisions and earn trust, you'll need to set an example. How do you build those important relationships? Can you give me an example of a recent time you successfully led a team or took that initiative to solve the problem?
Thank you, Brenda, for your question. As the senior director, I am responsible for, or I'm actually the liaison between the 6 state directors and our national officers. So when I became the senior, I was given the task of relating with our newly elected NEA directors. So I met with them one-on-one, and I listened to their concerns and I answered their questions. And as an educator, I know that it doesn't matter how much you know unless they know how much you care. So I availed myself and I had personal one-on-one conversations. I also have to prepare the budget as a senior director, and I wasn't given the tools. And so I had to be resourceful and contacting NEA as well as the former senior director, Andre Taylor, to complete the task.
Thank you.
I don't see anybody at microphone 3, so I'll now go back to microphone 2.
Hi, Connie Campbell, Wellston Teachers Association. This question is for both Mark and Robin. What is your greatest strength, and how is that going to help you be a successful secretary-treasurer?
I think my greatest strength as I came up through the association is that I've worked on very collaboratively based leadership model. I have worked very hard. When I mentioned the Senate Bill 5 thing, the thing I was so proud about the membership meeting we had is we put the call out to action. And the reason we did that is because our executive board said, we have to have a meeting. And I'm like, yes, we do, you're right. And we went and did that. And we organized ourselves to make sure that, and my leadership and the building reps, to make sure that everybody knew that we had to go to that, and it was really crucial that we did. And the fact that 200 of us after that meeting went downtown to march at the State House. And then we had trainings on petition drives and things like that. All that was through distributed leadership, through the help of all the people that I work with. And I'm very proud of our building reps because they do a lot of work for our members.
Robin?
I actually don't have one strength. My strengths kind of work in a circular fashion. I believe that I'm an active listener, a problem solver, and I'm also a trained professional developer, which makes me well equipped to provide the treasurer's workshops, which is one of the major duties of the secretary-treasurer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Is there anybody at microphone 3? Seeing nobody, I'll go back, and I don't see anybody at 1, I'll go back to microphone 2.
Marty Flood, Columbus Education Association. My question is for both candidates. I understand that you have to present treasurer workshops. What type of professional development experiences do you have?
Yeah. Because we're switching out.
I have been trained in presentation because adult learners are actually much different from educating children. And I have also been trained as a cognitive coach for my school district, and I present not only at the building level, but also at the district level. I have been, well, I actually participate in monthly coaching meetings because I am a coach for a very large building which houses 2 schools in one, 2 programs in one. So I have been extensively trained because that is one of my major duties that I have been serving in for the past 6 years.
Well, I don't have formal training, or I'm not a professional developer as an adult educator. What I have done is, as a member of the STRS board, you may know that we've made some changes in our system. And that has forced me to go out and talk to people and help everyone understand what we were facing. So you have to be able to help people understand actuarial science, which as a math teacher, I know how to lose a room. I'll tell you that for free. And in order to talk about that, one of the greatest compliments I ever got was like, you know, I don't like what you say all the time, but somehow you say it in a way I don't feel so bad. And I feel like that's a compliment that I've gotten. So my experience in making tough decisions and standing for them and being able to answer them is I think, relevant to the Secretary-Treasurer's job.
Thank you. I see no one at microphone 1, so I will go back to microphone 2.
Good morning. Jeff Wensing, Parma Education Association. My question is, other than maintaining membership, what do you believe are some specific things that need to occur in order for OEA to maintain its financial health moving forward?
So 65% of our budget is reserved for staff salary and benefits, and that's a subject of collective bargaining, which is off limits. We can't change that through the collective bargaining process. So we have about a 35% piece of the pie left, and that's not unlike a family budget where you have to decide and prioritize between what you need and what you want. So do you have steak for dinner or do you settle for chicken? And that's what we have to do. We have to prioritize our needs. So what are our needs? We need engagement with our members. We need leadership development. And we need assisting locals. And as your Secretary-Treasurer, that's where I'm going to prioritize the resources, advocate for that on our leadership team, to provide the resources for those 3 things. And then everything else has to fall below that priority, and that involves tough choices.
So we have now come to the end of our 10 minutes, but in all fairness, I'm going to allow Robin to answer that question.
Thank you. In all actuality, we are going to have to conduct business differently. We will no longer be able to do the same things that we've been doing over the years. As an NEA director, just returning from DC, we had extensive conversations around the budget, and NEA has made drastic cuts just since January. 41 staff positions have been cut that will not be refilled. They have also created we have created a budget that for this year will be $28 million, but the next year it will be cut to $22 million. The funding for the UniServe units has also been cut by little over $2,600. So we can no longer do or conduct business as usual. We have to learn how to do more with less. We will have to have conversations on what is the best avenue that we should take to maintain our financial stability.
Okay. So we've come to the end of our 10 minutes. Thank you for those who had questions and were willing to be answering questions, and thank you to Robin and Mark. So now we will go on. I will say that we were going to have then our 2 candidates speak for the position of OEA member at large, but I was just told that Deborah Jackson has withdrawn her candidacy. So seeing that, that means that Lena Jordan has been elected by acclamation. So now we're going to hear from the candidates for the office of NEA Director number 5, and again we're going to go in alphabetical order. NEA Director shall be given the opportunity to appear before the Assembly right now for a 3-minute speech. Audiovisual and electronic presentations are prohibited as part of all candidate speeches. So we'll start now with Carol Carruthers. Carol?
Good morning, Madam President and my OEA family. My name is Carol Carruthers, and this year I'll be celebrating 20 years as an educator. There's no higher calling of service than as an educator, and there's no greater responsibility than fighting for you. And so today, I'm asking for your support for me as NEA Director number 5. I want to address a question up front. Yes, I'm serving on the STRS board, and no, there's no conflict between serving on STRS and NEA at the same time, per legal counsel. So why do I want to serve you on the NEA board? At the district RAs, you heard me tell a story about my Aunt Ruby, who was a gem and had great wisdom advising me to become involved in all avenues of my profession, and my journey working with the union began. Well, there's another story that I need to share with you to help you understand why I promise to be a caring, committed, courageous advocate for you. I know what it's like to be treated unfairly and to feel like no one has your back. When I first applied for tenure, I was denied. My principal, who had been my direct supervisor for the past 3 years, stated she didn't know me long enough. Now, was I denied because I'm a woman? I don't know. Because I'm African American? I don't know. Because I'm a single parent? I don't know. These questions went unanswered, and there's no greater feeling of helplessness, not understanding, and not knowing where to turn. Here's what I do know. I will be there for you when you're not being treated fairly, when the fair questions you deserve to have answered are going unanswered. I've been there, and I will be there for you. I'm asking for your vote because I want to represent all of you at those times when you feel you're not being seen or heard. I haven't forgotten the days or where I started or those who helped me along the way. And I want to be that voice for you. I will fight for you, and I will represent you. It's simple for me, educators first. When I served you on the Oberlin School Board, I put you first. When I served you on the NEOEA and OEA Board, I put you first. And as a member of STRS, I have fought to protect our pensions. My experience goes beyond STRS. I've held various leadership positions in my community, as well as local, district, state, and level for our union. You see by the card. Every step that I've taken along this journey has prepared me to be the best advocate for you. So many of you placed your trust in me, and I ask for your support today for NEA Director number 5. I will work through problems, learning, listening, and trying every day to get better. Thank you.
Next, Dan Greenberg.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Greenberg, and I'm running for NEA Director number 5. As some of you know, at last summer's NEA Rep Assembly, my family had quite a scare. My nephew Chase fell down a flight of stairs at our hotel, and my wife Nikki and I feared the worst as Chase lay unconscious on the landing near the 7th floor. Miraculously, Chase is doing fine. He's made a full recovery, and he doesn't even remember the incident. But I do. I remember the sheer panic and terror that I felt. I remember Joni Watson comforting me. I remember Russell Huglock blocking the stairs so no one would trample Chase. I remember Molly Wassmuth taking care of my kids so that Nikki and I could go to the hospital with Chase. I remember Geneva Parker leading the OEA delegation in a prayer for my family. I remember Jen Long delivering your incredibly generous gift to me and my family at the conclusion of the RA. I will never forget the way you, my OEA family, took care of me and my family. Truly, we are a family. We take care of each other. When times are tough, we don't give up. We find ways to overcome obstacles. And we've certainly had plenty of obstacles in recent years. Testing, OTES, slashed funding, charter schools, the assault on public education. But we're still standing because we stick together. We don't give up on what we believe in or each other. We're a family. This feeling of you as a family has driven me for years to do the work I've done. Instead of giving up when faced with an anti-union sentiment in gerrymandered electoral districts in Northwest Ohio, I recruited community members to join OEA members in a group we call the Northwest Ohio Friends of Public Education. For 5 years, we've been holding community events, educating the public about standardized testing and charter school schemes. We come to the State House and meet with legislators. We prove that education is not a partisan issue. When I saw my friends back in my hometown of Canton sharing their frustrations about standardized testing, I started holding meetings there too, making the 5-hour round trip on a monthly basis for almost 2 years to form the East Central Ohio Friends of Public Education. I traveled to Columbus too, especially when there's an OEA lobby day. I don't come alone. I bring my school superintendent and treasurer and a Republican school board member. I bring a leader from our district parent club too. We speak with one voice to make the greatest impact possible. I don't give up, I don't get deterred, and that's what you can expect from me as NEA Director number 5. I will work tirelessly for you, for OEA, and for public education when I'm in Washington, D.C. I will forge relationships with senators and representatives just as I have done in Ohio. I will make sure they understand our issues. I will help them understand that more than anything, we are fighting for our students. I will work to educate and engage our colleagues across the state so they add their voices to our fight. I will not be afraid to stand up at NEA meetings and speak on your behalf. I will continue to find ways to fight for our association and public education. I will not let you down because you are my family.
Time.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Sue Messenger, Chair of the Elections Committee, to speak to you about the voting process. Sue?
Thank you, President Higgins, and good morning. The polling location is the same room where you registered this morning. For those that registered at the hotel, the polling location is located just outside the convention hall, so please follow the signs to voting. Voting will begin when the lunch recess has been called and will last for 2 hours. To avoid long lines, you may wish to have lunch first and then vote before the 2-hour break has concluded. The voting procedures are found in your delegate handbook on page 10. Delegates must have their credentials and a photo ID. A driver's license is preferred. However, other official photo IDs are also acceptable. You'll be showing your IDs and credentials at least twice, once to get into the polling room and once again when you sign the voter list to receive your ballot. Please keep them handy throughout the process. Remember, no campaign materials allowed in the voting area. This includes buttons, stickers, t-shirts, and any other campaign-related material. You'll need to remove any voting material before you enter the voting area. When you enter the polling area, you'll notice the voting stations. The lines are numbered 0 through 28 and are posted above each voting station. Your specific voting line is printed on your credential, your badge. Please sign the voting list with your complete name as it appears. Do not initial. We must reconcile the number of ballots with the number of signatures after the election. Squiggles are often hard to decipher. When filling out the ballot, be sure to fill in the bubble completely. Do not fold your ballot, please. Simply insert it into one of the many boxes provided, which makes our scanning process much easier. After you cast your ballot, please leave the voting area quickly. Candidates' names can be found on page 9 of the delegate handbook, and again, procedures are on page 10. Finally, if you choose to vote after lunch, please be sure to return before the 2-hour voting period is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. And as a reminder, please always remember to have your photo ID out until you actually receive your ballot. You're going to need it out and ready at the door, and again to show it to the voting teller. And like was suggested, I know people like to vote, first and then go to lunch, but you might want to consider eating lunch and then voting later. It just seems to make the line shorter, but it's up to you. And before we go on, I want to remind you of Saturday's deadlines. Registration will close at 10 o'clock, and the deadline for submitting new business items is 9:30. I've been asked by the staff posting announcements that any announcement you may have that the delegates need to be made aware of before we adjourn for lunch should be given to them as soon as possible. Please don't wait until the last minute. So normally at this point of the agenda, you would hear a report from the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. Since there are no proposals to vote on at this RA, we will disperse with this report. Okay. So I want to welcome all of you here again this morning. It is so good to see you. Oftentimes I don't see you except for these RAs, so it's really great to reconnect. So is the music going to play? Technical difficulties, but
there's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
So, for the baby boomer generation, which I am part of that generation, the song we just heard harkens back to the protest era of the 1960s. The refrain is, "Stop now, what's that sound? Everybody look, what's going down?" So I want to begin today by doing just that. What is that sound, and what has been going down? That sound is the voice of educators across the country rising up and saying, enough is enough. We're not going to take it anymore. It started earlier this year in West Virginia, one of the reddest states in the country. Then it spread to Kentucky and Oklahoma and Arizona. Again, all red states, all so-called right-to-work states. However, teachers and support staff have not been deterred. After years of budget cuts to education spending, they have had enough. Enough of being underpaid and underappreciated by elected officials. Enough of shoddy working conditions. Enough of out-of-date textbooks. Enough of their pensions being threatened. They stood up, they walked out, they rallied at their state capitals, they persevered, and they won. And not just for themselves. They won for their students, for their schools, and for the communities in which they live. In West Virginia, all state employees got the 5% raise given to educators. That was great. In Kentucky, the legislature restored school transportation funding and health insurance for recently retired teachers. And educators prevailed upon the Republican-controlled State House and Senate to override the governor's veto of a tax increase that helps to pay for increases in public education funding. In Oklahoma, teachers not only got a long overdue pay raise of about $6,100, but secured millions of dollars in new funding for the state schools. Pretty good. And in Arizona, where the governor had initially proposed a 1% hike in teacher pay, he signed a bill that increases those salaries by 9% this year and 5% in each of the next 2 years. That's incredible. And some of the $400 million in state cuts to education funding made in recent years were restored. None of this would have happened in any of these states if educators had not stood up, marched to their state capitals, and made their voices heard. Their actions have inspired all of us around the country. Let me take a moment to share some of their individual stories. Edwina Howard Jack, a high school English teacher at Upshur County, West Virginia, has taught for years. When West Virginia teachers began their walkout in February, she drove 2 hours to Charleston on 8 of the 9 days that protesters gathered at the state capitol. She told a reporter that she'd been more politically active since Donald Trump was sworn in as president, and I quote, "There have just been so many people who were apathetic before," she said, "but now want to get involved. And the teacher strike took it all to a whole new level." In Arizona, when Kathy Hoffman, who taught for 5 years, watched the Senate confirmation hearing for Betsy DeVos to be the U.S. Secretary of Education, she decided to run for state superintendent. She told a reporter that she was sick of people with no experience in education setting policy. Have we heard that before? Of course we have. And that was really the tipping point for her. That's the day it hit me that we really need more educators to run. In Oklahoma, Adlena Klontz, who's been an educator for more than 20 years, marched with her fellow educators and family members more than 100 miles from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, the state capital. She said she was motivated by the chance to do something for her special needs students. When she got to the Capitol, she found many lawmakers were, as she put it, not wanting to do their jobs, not wanting to really represent us. She's a Republican and a self-described active political party person, but she says she's had it and is now prepared to vote them out, Republicans and Democrats, if they're not doing their job. I quote, "Everyone wants these problems fixed," she said to a reporter, "and the questions for our leaders is, are you trying to do something about it?" We're going to remember in November has become the rallying cry as more and more educators are sending a clear message to the politicians. If you can't do what's right now for our schools, our students, and colleagues, we are going to vote you out. All of this activism has occurred at the same time that students have also said they've had enough. Enough of the horrific shootings that have taken place in too many schools across the country. Enough of living in fear that their school could be next. Enough of politicians not making it safer for them to study and learn. The tipping point came in the wake of the terrible shooting in February in Parkland, Florida, at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. There, a collection of brave, social media savvy students rallied their peers not only in their community, but across the country, including in Ohio, to demand action. More than 1 million people attended the March for Our Lives rallies in hundreds of cities across the country in March, including here in Columbus. The rallies attracted not just the students who want and deserve to have safe schools, but their parents and their teachers who marched in support. The Parkland students have galvanized a movement and spurred levels of activism not seen since the civil rights and anti-war movements of the 1960s, movements that were also inspired by students. "These are the students we've been waiting for," said one activist whose mother was a second-grade teacher at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut when a mass shooting took place there in 2012. "Now it's up to us to act." We all know it's an election year. Historically, our members have behaved much like the general electorate. Turned at the polls is usually not as great as during a presidential year, and it's less so when it's a so-called off year. The only exception to that pattern came in 2011 when the repeal of Senate Bill 5 was on the ballot. Well, The stakes this year are not unlike what we faced in 2011. The forces who oppose our collective bargaining rights, who oppose our basic right to organize, are itching to do us in. If we don't have a friend in the governor's office and other statewide offices next year, we're vulnerable to the attacks that have seen nearly all of the surrounding states, West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana, and Michigan among them, turned into so-called right-to-work states. If we act, if we mobilize in sufficient numbers, we can stop that from happening here. But we cannot be complacent. We need to turn out at the polls this year in record numbers. This afternoon, you'll hear from our friend Rich Cordray. I think many of you already know what he can do for us, our students, and working people across the state if he is elected governor. He can win. His opponent in the general election is coming out his primary weekend after having to fend off a challenge by pandering to the hard right element of his party. Mike DeWine's ability to appeal to voters in the middle, to the moderate voters who are the majority, has been diminished. And it is noteworthy that John Kasich has so far refused to endorse Mike DeWine. But we cannot take anything for granted. Rich Cordray will be vilified by the vested interests who can pour a lot of money into this state. They are desperate to cling to power. But I have a message for them, for all of them. We are not going to take it. We have had enough. Enough of treading water in the effort to invest more in our schools. Enough of the failure to make our schools safer. Enough of the denigration of public education by politicians who use us as a whipping post. And let's make it crystal clear to those people who want to hurt us. Let's join the hundreds of thousands of educators all across the country in saying enough is enough. Read our lips. We are not going to take it anymore. Thank you.
This one's for all the teachers out there tonight. Oh, we're not gonna take it. Oh no, we ain't gonna take it. Oh, we're not gonna take it anymore. We got the right to choose it. There ain't no way we'll lose it. This is our life. This is our song. We'll fight the powers that be just. I don't pick against the because you don't know us, you don't belong. We're not gonna take it. Oh no, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore.
I bet you didn't even know I knew who he was, did you? Okay? But who's going to join me in saying we're not going to take it anymore? We are not going to take it anymore. So thank you to all of you for all the work you've done so far and all the work I know you're going to join all of us in this room from now until November. Thank you. So, where are we going next? Oh, yay. Okay. Ooh, okay. Art has always been part of Jonathan Jurovich's life. Both of his parents are artists, and art experiences were a big part of his childhood. He was also inspired by his own teachers to work with others and not alone, and to use art for other means. Today, he shares his enthusiasm for art with his students at the Liberty Tree Elementary School in Powell. John has been the Olentangy Local Schools since 2005. In addition to serving as the chair of the district's elementary art department, Jonathan heads his school building environment team, which teaches children to show respect and empathy. The Liberty Tree principal, Terry Catan, said this about him: John Jurovich is a one-of-a-kind teacher who inspires young children to see the world in a new light, color, or shape. His enthusiasm and passion for teaching as well as the arts engages young minds and allows them to open themselves up to something new and exciting. Please join me in recognizing the outstanding accomplishments of Ohio's Teacher of the Year for 2018, Jonathan Jurovich. Jonathan.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Looking. From an early age, my younger brother was bigger than me. But my mom didn't see it that way. She would buy us the exact same clothes in the exact same size. This really only became problematic when family picture time would roll around, and there we were in matching sailboat sweaters, his too tight and mine way too big. In life, rarely does one size actually fit all. Not in sweaters my mom purchased for my brother and I, and certainly not in the world of education. Our students are individuals with different backgrounds, families, abilities, interests, and dreams. Each child is unique and needs a safe environment where they have access to a high-quality education, where they can learn and are valued for who they are. In professional meetings, we gather and discuss the necessary resources to make this goal a reality, when really, the means to make this happen already exist in our schools. We must look to our teacher leaders to be sure our schools meet the needs of all of our students. All of our students. Teacher leaders, we know them, we see them. They are the teachers peers look to for advice and for inspiration. They lead by example, challenge the status quo, and make a difference in the lives of their students and their communities. They see the big picture. Administrators must recognize that our teacher leaders are an asset and should be utilized to meet the needs of our individual students. You can see their faces now. Each of them a professional with a specific skill set all their own. What are they good at? What are they passionate about? How can they lead their colleagues supportively? These leaders must be challenged and given real responsibilities within the school to make a positive difference, because given the opportunity, they will. I was thinking about how I became a teacher leader, and it didn't happen overnight where I just woke up and said, yeah, this is who I am. It took my principal, Terry Caton, recognizing that I valued community building and could navigate conversations with humor and compassion. I grew in confidence because she saw in me something that I kept downplaying, that I was a leader. At first, I oversaw our staff's social committee, right, which evolved into the building culture committee, and then I took on managing our facilities. These responsibilities led me to take on further leadership roles in our district and our state. You know, I love the phrase, mighty oaks from tiny acorns grow. It always reminds me that the educators and students I work with have such incredible potential. Teachers will take the leap to lead when they feel trusted, respected, and challenged. And similarly, our students' success starts when they feel safe, valued, and included. This is why educational leaders need to take a close look at their current building culture and environment to be sure there is a foundation of respect and empathy towards one another. Through strong communities and thoughtful relationships, educators can support the needs of their students. I am the art teacher at Liberty Tree Elementary School in Powell, Ohio, and I also oversee our building culture and environment. Last fall, we began to see some troubling behaviors within our student community. One child refused to open his beautifully packed lunch of curry because of the jeers from fellow classmates. He sat quietly with his lunchbox tightly closed and he mumbled, "I'm not hungry." Or the student who had great anxiety about using the restroom because other students would crawl under the stalls while they were in use. And these stories became painful for me to hear. I had been tasked with fostering a supportive, compassionate school culture, and my students were experiencing something quite different. Liberty Tree really began to wrestle with this reality. How can our students be academically successful if they are afraid, crippled with anxiety, or disconnected from their peers? So I went directly to my principal, Terry, and I asked her to give us an answer and a quick fix. Instead, she looked at me and said, "That does sound like a problem. How are you going to find a solution?" I was taken aback because that's not the response I was looking for. But the problem became an opportunity to grow as a leader and in turn foster leadership in others. I brought together teacher leaders from the building to reflect on what our students were experiencing. We determined that we needed clear expectations and modeled behaviors and developed a school-wide character education program called Our Tree Traits. The focus is on exhibiting respect, empathy, awareness, and perseverance both in and out of school. Representatives from all teaching teams and instructional support personnel came together to design lesson plans, exploring each trait, and establishing the expectations for locations throughout the school. Now, staff and students could discuss how we experience empathy in the cafeteria by appreciating our food choices and those of others, or exhibiting respect in the restroom by allowing others their privacy. And how we as educators, we need to model these behaviors and expectations for our students. This work was led by teachers with our principal intentionally not present, so we could work through the problem openly and vulnerably as leaders in our own right. When it came time to present this work to the rest of the staff, the teacher leaders had such pride in the product. We had developed something tangible and purposeful that we knew would change our school for the better. This is what sold the program to our colleagues. The principal wasn't standing there with a new initiative. It was instead a group of passionate educators who were putting kids first. The staff heard the plans from someone they related to and realized, yeah, this is doable. This illustrates the point of Paolo Di Maria, our state superintendent, who says, instead of being told what to do, by utilizing teacher leaders, the teachers are saying, here is what we're asking ourselves to do, and this is why. The Liberty Tree teachers involved in this tree trait experience have now taken on new roles in both instruction and building culture. They speak up, encourage others, and have become more involved in the functions of the school because they were given the chance to lead and make a difference. And for our students, discussions with common vocabulary and clear expectations have opened up incredible opportunities to make a positive impact on our school. In a fourth grade music class, a student recognized the hard work of a fellow classmate had put into learning a piece of music, saying, "He really showed perseverance when it was hard and didn't give up." And on the school bus, our fifth grade students have become leaders as they partner up with kindergarten buddies, modeling respect and empathy to the younger riders. At the end of the day, I watch as these unlikely partners walk hand in hand to the bus, talking about their day with real engagement. I had a very interesting experience this last week where I got to share about this important work. I traveled to Washington, D.C. with the other state teachers of the year. and I am one of 4 finalists for the National Teacher of the Year. As one of those finalists, I had the opportunity for a photo op with the president at the White House. I took that moment, and after our photo, I turned and said to him, I want you to know what I teach my students about is respect and empathy, and we as the adults need to model those behaviors for our students. It is time to utilize the strengths of our teacher leaders to set expectations and to make decisions based upon the needs of our individual schools. The educational leaders should also be deeply involved in discussions of policy, best practices, and initiatives in order to do what is best for kids. And in doing so, we must be sure to foster students' uniqueness as we work to meet their needs, keep them safe, and encourage them to dare greatly. We must support students with learning opportunities tailored to their preferences and specific interests. It takes teacher leaders to encourage and support our staff members to meet students where they are, to set standards, and to help them acquire knowledge. If the ways we're trying to reach our students isn't working, then we must find another way. As an art educator, I have the opportunity to open my students' eyes to the world around them and engage them in discussions about culture, identity, and our collective story. I'm able to bring their passions into their work as I support them to grow, succeed, and overcome obstacles as they seek understanding and meaning. For one such student, I believe I and the teaching leaders in my building did just that. McKenna came to us as a kindergartner. In her very first day in class, I was instantly impressed with her thoughtful conversations, her humor, and her creativity. She was with us that year because we had just opened a specialized learning center for students with autism, and we could offer her supports her homeschool could not at the time. She did so well that year, consuming knowledge, learning independence, and continuing to flourish in my art room. Because of her successes, she was re-enrolled in her home school. She began to struggle because she sought to be understood, needed encouragement and connection. Not long into the year, her parents requested she return to us, where she was celebrated as an individual. Years later, she continues to make progress and develop as a learner thanks to the supports of leaders in our building. And last year, when McKenna was in the 3rd grade, I was so impressed with her innate creativity and expressive cartoon illustrations that I nominated her as gifted in the visual arts. She was identified as twice exceptional, a student with autism who is gifted in art. By taking the leap with her, this designation will follow her throughout her education and will provide unique opportunities for her to truly shine. In fact, the illustrations you've been seeing today throughout this presentation were all created by McKenna. I value her work and want to engage her to see value in herself. She's encouraged to bring her quick wit and creativity to her learning. By setting high expectations and providing her with opportunities to enrich and inspire, she is able to explore content material when before she may have only seen obstacles. Like McKenna, we need to see in all of our students something unique, someone to be valued. We need parents to know that their children are our priority. We believe in our students and set high standards for them to reach with our support. And we celebrate along with them when they reach their goals. Okay, so right now you might be saying, all right, yeah, let's do it. But where do I even begin? It all seems like too much. Well, start small. Just start small. I attribute my work as an educator to a quote from Helen Keller. I long to accomplish a great and noble task, but it is my chief duty to accomplish small tasks as if they were great and noble. Our small actions can make a huge impact for an individual child, our schools, and our communities. Becoming a teacher leader doesn't just happen overnight. There are small but purposeful steps that will make a difference every day and for every child. So maybe just start by saying hello. Greet students in the morning with a smile, with eye contact, with acceptance, and you're saying to them, I am here with you, let's do this together. Maybe it's in being a good listener. They all have stories, right? Some hilarious, some tragic, some unbelievable. And sometimes our students just need someone to say, it's okay to quietly reflect in a safe place. These forms of communication should also extend to our work with parents. Recently, I called a parent who saw the school's phone number and answered by asking, what's wrong? Well, imagine if we called our students' parents at home just to tell them about this incredibly beautiful moment that happened that day. How we are proud of their student and wanted to make sure they knew it too. Or maybe it's as simple as wearing red and standing with our colleagues in West Virginia, Arizona, Oklahoma, Kentucky, North Carolina, Colorado, and across the United States. And together, as we speak out and stand up for public education. It's funny how what we wear has such significance, isn't it? 7 years ago, I started wearing plaid shirts to work, and students noticed this. They began wearing plaid shirts on their art day too. They wore these shirts in order to match me. So I made a decision, and for the past 7 years, every day, I wear plaid. It is one small way students at my school connect with me. It's something they remember about me. It is such a small act, a small decision that makes them feel included and connected to something so much bigger. I know I've talked a lot about my own experiences in my own school, but there are certainly teacher leaders throughout the state of Ohio making a difference for students in real ways and by utilizing small moments. Kara Kassler teaches at North Elementary in Licking Heights. Kara teaches English as a second language and engages her students in the practice of civil discourse as they learn to communicate with others. James Sutter is an environmental science teacher at Wellston High School. By starting with relevant local issues that have an impact on his students and their environment, he provides them with the tools to observe the world around them and then critically evaluate their observations. And Arthur Lard, a business teacher at Portsmouth High School. He teaches financial literacy, educating his students about the financial risks that could profoundly impact their futures. He encourages them to be patient and to take the time to find their own answers instead of relying on him for the solution. Not only are these teachers leaders in their classrooms, but they take on this role in their schools and their communities. The ability to lead outside the classroom must be cultivated in our teacher leaders. In our big and small ways, we need to advocate for our students and for our profession. My mentor, Penny Donahue, saw this potential in me. She was a bold, colorful, giving art educator, decked out in polka dots and bright pink overalls. She inspired our Department of Art educators through her kindness and creativity. Penny delighted in seeing potential in everyday items that, with the power of art, could become something incredible. She waged a difficult battle with cancer that took her away from us just days after I was named Ohio Teacher of the Year. But in those final months, she gave me a gift. A small acorn charm. And she said, "You were my acorn, and I'm so proud of the tree you have become." She always had the right thing to say. She always had the right thing to say and the right gift to accompany it. May my work become a part of her legacy, to take other educators under my wing, to support them with words of encouragement and praise, to learn from them, and to recognize the impact we have on our students, and to never stop caring. By taking practical steps, we can empower our teacher leaders to help meet the needs of students from all backgrounds and with all abilities. We can work to provide safe, educational environments where students can learn and are valued for who they are. Teacher leaders have the power to turn our tiny acorns into those mighty oaks, for they understand that our students will grow to make an impact on their communities, our country, and future. We must be the difference makers we want our students to become. Thank you.
Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be. Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be. Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be.
I haven't given it to her.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Jonathan, come up here, please. I am just so proud of him. I personally thought that you should have been the National Teacher of the Year. But anyway, I just love your plaid, what you do, how you connect with your students and everything you do with them. And I just want to give you a small token of OEA's appreciation for everything you do. So on behalf of the 125,000 members and educators all across the country, thank you so much for what you do with our children. And a little, here's for your desk. And you really don't have a desk, right?
I don't have a desk.
Yeah, 'cause when I went and visited Olentangy Schools this past fall, and I went into his classroom, and there was no desk. So just put that someplace, okay? Okay, put it
Nice
someplace.
bookshelf, yeah.
Yes, yes. So thank you very much,
you so
Jonathan,
much.
again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Let's see. At this point, I recognize Lisa Gunler, Chairperson of the Credentials Committee, for an interim report. Lisa?
Thank you, Madam President. As of 10:30 this morning, there were 832 delegates registered. On behalf of the committee, I move the acceptance of the second credentials report.
Okay. I know. Okay. Is there any discussion? So you know at the microphone, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. Motion's carried. You adopted the report. Thank you, Lisa. So I do have a few reminders. They are wanting you to be on Twitter tweeting, because they need some tweets, they're telling me. And also the budget report has been moved to the afternoon. Did I hear that? Oh, darn. Did someone say that? Oh, darn. You know. Okay, Sandy Coe, was that you? Okay. So, again, it makes me very happy to see all of you sitting out here today wearing red for public ed. As I stated earlier, educators have been through a lot this year. In West Virginia, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Arizona, Colorado, North Carolina, and communities across the country, tens of thousands of educators have come together in the Red for Ed movement to advocate for their students, schools, and neighborhoods.
In a high school that will be empty come Monday,
there are 19 people in the Senate that need to change their mind and do what's right.
West Virginia teachers plotted their next moves. Some 20,000 of them on strike for nearly 2 weeks. The state ranked 48th in teacher pay nationally, an average of about $45,000. They walked out demanding a raise and relief from soaring health care costs.
I just left my father's chemotherapy session. If I get cancer tomorrow, do you think I can afford to take chemo?
Days series of angry protests and negotiations inside the state capitol building have led to this. A deal for a 5% pay raise, agreed to by the governor and State House of Delegates, but blocked by the state Senate.
What will it take to get the teachers back in the classroom?
All it takes is for them to agree to the deal that was there in the beginning.
Lawmakers opposing the deal say the state can't afford it. The governor, who with the teachers thought the deal was done last week, tweeted, "For crying out loud, we're putting our children at risk." Some 270,000 students and their families locked out of their schools.
So, recently I was at the NEA and got to spend some time with my good friend, Dale Lee. You saw him in the video. Dale is the president of the West Virginia Education Association. And the stories he told me about the West Virginia teacher walkout were absolutely amazing. And I want to say that the courage and conviction that those teachers and support staff had as they organized around their 55 Strong movement really affected me. I really got tears in my eyes hearing him talk about what they went through. I wish you could hear Dale's amazing story just like I did. What? What? Brianna just told me, I cannot believe it. Really? Actually, Dale Lee is here this morning to speak to all of you. So I would like you to welcome, give a big warm welcome to Dale Lee, president of the West Virginia Education Association. Dale. I wanted him to come over here, but he goes, I'll go over there, so, okay.
All right. No, I don't take the president's podium. Wow, what a group. Last time I addressed a group in Ohio, it was in Cincinnati when I renamed it Cincinnati, West Virginia, over at Mid-Atlantic. They didn't take too kindly to that. But I did learn that anytime you address a group in Ohio, you always start out by saying, OH. Marshall. Y'all gonna get me in trouble before I even start. Madam President, I want to thank you. Thank you for having me and for the OEA. Because it's truly an honor and a privilege to represent the teachers and service professionals who I call the educators in West Virginia. But the educators are the ones that are the heroes in all this. The educators are the one who made the tough decision to step out and stand up for themselves. And so they deserve all the accolades and all the applause that anyone can give them. So if you don't mind, I would ask for one round of applause for the educators of West Virginia. Thank you. Thank you. Now, more importantly, I never address a group of educators that I don't thank you. Thank you for what you do every day, because we have the greatest profession of all. We're in the profession that we make a difference in kids' lives. We're the only profession I know that can take even the broken and help them make something of themselves. Thank you so much for everything you do every day. Thank you for what you do for your students. And it takes all of us, the bus drivers, the cooks, the secretaries, the teachers, the counselors, the principals. It takes everyone to be successful for a child. And that's what we do. Now, I don't know if you know it or not. I saw the video, so obviously you do. But we had a little activity in West Virginia this past year. From about February 22nd to March the 6th. And during those 9 days, the eyes of the world were on West Virginia. But you know, we have this crazy idea in West Virginia. We believe that every child deserves a great public education, not just a few. And we also believe, crazy idea, that the educators are the true experts of public education. Not the politicians. Now I'm going to ask you a question. This is the interactivity portion of the speech. I want you to close your eyes a minute. I want you to think of the person outside of your parents or your family who had the greatest influence on your life. You can open your eyes now. I'm going to guess that most everyone in here thought of a teacher. I'm also going to guess that no more than one of you thought of a politician. Just a guess. Just a guess. And it is because we make the difference. You know, when you're looking at education issues, why don't they come to us? Why don't they ask us what changes need to be made in education? That would be the smart thing to do, wouldn't it? But politicians decide what goes on in our profession. Folks, we've got to change that. We have to change the way that people look at education. And that's what we started in West Virginia. You see, our activity was really four-pronged. We had what we called a four-legged stool. Most people know that we were 48th in the nation in pay, and it was about salary. But it was also about our health insurance, and we have a statewide health insurance plan. And the burden of the increased costs kept falling upon the educators, the participants of the plan. And then we had an education committee that thought that they wanted to destroy public education. We don't have charter schools in West Virginia, so they wanted to introduce charter schools. They wanted to introduce education savings accounts, and then they wanted to take seniority away from RIF and transfer process. And finally, they decided they wanted to destroy the union. They actually passed the year before a bill that would make it more difficult to have your payroll deduction for the dues, and the governor vetoed it. So they started that same bill again. So those really were the four issues that we were going to talk about during this activity. And I don't call it a strike, I call it a work action. And the work action was because, unlike a strike, very few people lost any money in West Virginia. Very few people lost anything from their paycheck. Now, we're going to go until the end of June now. But we are making it up. But we didn't decide February 21st we should do something tomorrow. It took a lot of planning. We actually started planning long before that and organizing long before that. In November and December, we started asking our locals to go to have meetings with their legislators to talk about the issues that we knew were going to come up during this legislative session. And then we had a rally for public education on Martin Luther King Day. That's a day that we all had off in West Virginia. But we weren't done then. We had informational picketing. We would go to the courthouses and libraries and selective areas in the communities and have informational picketing about how we were 48th in the nation in pay, how there were 727 positions in West Virginia that didn't have a certified teacher in them. And all of that is doing harm to kids. And that's how we phrased everything. It's all about the harm it was doing to our students. Well, folks, those are just not in just math and science. We have first grade positions that have had 10 substitutes in them in a year. You're doing harm. You're doing harm to kids when you do that. And it's because people don't want to come into education anymore. First of all, the salary is low, but the respect level is even lower. It's time for us to change that. Now, after we did the rally and the informational picketing, we did probably the smartest thing that we did during the whole time. We went to our county boards of education and we asked them for a letter of support for teachers and service professionals and their struggles that we were having. And almost every county board of education gave us a letter of support. That was huge when we went into the work actions in February, because it's difficult for a superintendent to say, no, I'm not going to support you, when their board says, oh yeah, you will. And that's why we didn't have a stoppage. I mean, we didn't have the loss of wages. Every superintendent, every night, would call school off. And you would see the map to start to get more and more red with people calling school off until all 55 counties were done. Of course, we're like everywhere else. We did the Wear Red for Ed in education, but we did a couple other things that were unique. We actually had parents that did informational picketing for us. We went to the communities and we talked to our parents about what was happening and how it was affecting their kids. And they did informational picketing. And then they joined us outside our schools and did walk-ins. 30 minutes before school started, we all gathered together. We talked about how this was affecting our students in West Virginia. And as a show of solidarity and a show of strength, we all walked hand in hand into the classroom. That is huge, folks. That's a huge statement. So then we had 4 counties, 4 southern counties, and I happened to have grown up in one of those, Wyoming County, that decided we're going to take a stand now, and we're going to have a walkout now, one-day walkout. It happened to be a snowy day that day. That community had so much support, and they'd done all these things and had the parent support, that our state road crew met them at the school that they were getting ready to leave from, and they plowed the roads to Charleston ahead of them. When the Senate thought that they could wait us out and really have the public change, they didn't see the strength in that. But when a state road crew will do that for you, you know that you have the support of the community. Well, they did then we had our counties go together and with both organizations, and we have both WVEA and AFT in the state, and we had to work on this together. You know, we fight for a long time, but when everybody's fighting you, you join forces. And we decided that we would have our locals come together and give us an authorization vote to call a work action. We didn't tell them when it was going to be. We didn't know when it was going to be at that point. But we had to have the authorization. We had to have the knowledge that if we went, it wouldn't be just a few counties. It would be everybody. And that happened on February the 11th. They voted, and it was overwhelmingly from all the counties to give us that support. So then we were waiting. We had a rally on a Saturday, and at that rally on Saturday, we said, we're going to be walking on Thursday, and all 55 counties will walk out on Thursday and Friday. But our educators did exactly what they do every time. They wanted to make sure the kids were taken care of. And our educators, as soon as we made the announcement that we were going to be out on Thursday and Friday, they started working with their communities and their churches to make sure that the kids had hot meals. They wanted to make sure that the kids had the food over the time that we were out, so they worked with the food pantries. And they were worried about child care with many of our parents, and we're such a high poverty state that we'd set up child care for those that couldn't do it, that couldn't afford child care. People were amazed at that, but I wasn't, because that's what we do. We're educators. We take care of our kids. That's why we've allowed politicians to dictate where we're going for so long is because we're so tied up and so concerned about our kids that we really haven't paid attention to what the politicians are doing. Well, folks, that's changing. That's changing quickly. And more importantly, we want to make sure that we don't forget that. There are so many of us that said the eyes of the nation are on West Virginia, and for 9 days they were, and we've become a catalyst for other states. But the eyes of the nation are still on us because we had a primary election on Tuesday, and the eyes of the nation were looking at us on Tuesday. Would the teachers forget? Would the educators forget? Would they be complacent? Well, one of the most outspoken senators during this time was a senator named Carnes. And he even said after the work action, that's just a little bump in the road. You know, that happened in March. They'll forget about that in May. And most of those people vote on the Democratic side anyway. I'm not worried. Well, I'm proud to say that Tuesday night, Senator Carnes was defeated 63%. (63% to 37%). He lost every county. It was one of the largest geographical districts in the state, and he lost every county, even his own. And actually, in 2010, he voted in Florida, and his company is still based in Florida, and there was some question on whether he could run in 2014 when he was first elected. But his opponent didn't use that. His opponent ran a positive campaign. Even though Carnes was very negative against him, his opponent said, I'm only going to be positive. Well, yesterday the newspaper called and said, what do you think about the Carnes race? And Carnes said that many of the teachers switched their registration from Democrat to Republican just to vote him out. And I happen to be a little bit of a smart aleck. I can't help myself. I said, well, it's too bad that his constituents in Florida didn't get to vote for him this time. There are some other things that I'm very proud of. I come from a long line of teachers. My dad was a teacher. I taught for 22 years before I became president, and now my oldest daughter is a middle school teacher. In 1979, my dad walked out for public education in West Virginia. In 1990, I was a third-year teacher, and we had the first teacher strike in West Virginia, and I was on the picket line. And now in 2018, my daughter was on the picket line. 3 generations have had to walk out. Now, while I'm filled with pride at that, it's also sad to know that for 3 generations, we've had to fight this same fight, and for really longer than that. But you see, West Virginia did something amazing. We decided, with a little prodding for our governor, and it really came from a 6th grade student, that he looked at education wrong, that it was time to make an investment in education, just like you invest in tourism and trying to get business there and everything else. Because he went to a town hall meeting, we had actually passed a 2% pay raise, and the governor signed it, which equaled out to $800. And he kept saying, you got to go in, this is illegal. Our attorney general said this is illegal. We're going to file an injunction. But the amazing thing was he couldn't find anybody to file an injunction with him, because all the state boards said, no, we're supporting it. All the county boards said, no, we're supporting it. All the superintendents said, no, no, no. Our board's behind him. So he couldn't find anybody to file the injunction, which was an amazing thing. But the governor decided to do a town hall meeting, 3 town hall meetings on on Monday before the strike ended. And he thought he would be really good in these situations because that's his strength. And at one of the ones, he was telling the sixth grade student asked why they were putting so much money in tourism and commerce. And the governor was explaining to him that for every dollar you spend in tourism, you get $8 back. So the governor, using his logic, hands the little boy a dollar bill and says, now if you give me that dollar bill, I'll give you 8 back. Now doesn't it make sense to invest in tourism? And the little sixth grade student looked at him and says, yes, but if you take that same money and invest in me and students like me and invest in education, you'll get much more than $8 back. Next morning, the governor called us into his office and said, I've looked at this wrong. What do you want? And they had proposed 5% over 5 years, 1% each year, and then it went to 2%. And then so many numbers, it just went crazy. And we said, we'll take 5% up front and an investment every year from there. Don't put a number on it yet, because if our economy grows, we want more than 1% or 2%, but we want an investment. And the governor says, all right. But that's not all. We have a task force now that's looking at our health insurance. And the task force just started meetings, and we're going to make changes in our health insurance so that the money doesn't come out of the backs of the employees, that we have to find a funding source for that. And we're going to do that before November when the new plan rolls out. And it's still not all. All those anti-public education bills were buried. They're gone. And the fourth leg of the stool, the anti-union bills, are buried so deep that they may never see the light of day again. Especially when their lead sponsor just got beat 63% to 37%. Now, the eyes of the nation are going to continue to be on us, because it's November, we got to make some other changes. There's some people we have to defeat in November, and we will do that. But then in January, the people that we vote in, we have to make them stand up for what they said. And we have to make them believe that this investment is a continued investment, not a one-time investment. If you think about investing for your retirement, you don't put a one-time money in and say, oh, that's enough. I'll leave it there till I'm 65. No, you invest every year. So our educators have decided that we're going to hold their feet to the fire. And they have 2 years. Our House people and our Senate has 4 years. And if you don't do what you say, we'll vote you out and get somebody else in there. That's when you have real power. That's when you know that public education becomes a priority. And that's when you know that educators are really taking a stand. So it will happen. I believe it will happen. I was nervous Tuesday night. I clicked refresh about every 30 seconds. And when I saw those numbers come in, that's the second happiest time I've had this year so far. The happiest time is when the governor decided that to make the investment. There were bumps in the road. The Senate decided, no, we're going to make it 4% instead of 5%. Now, our senators are not the smartest people in the world. So they did this on a Saturday night, thinking that teachers weren't going to be there. Of course we were. You know, you can't outweight teachers. And they thought, well, if we just delay this a little while, they'll sit there and they'll have to go. Well, they don't understand that our bladders are so huge. We don't have to go to the bathroom for a long, long time. We can wait you out. So they thought they passed the 4% bill, but they passed the wrong bill. they actually passed the 5% bill. And when they realized what they did, they actually sent it over to the House, and the Speaker of the House, who was one of our strongest supporters during this time, but is just a truly honest gentleman, said, no, I can accept this and we'll do 5%, but I won't do that. I'm going to let them know their error. And he sent it back to them. And so the Senate had to decide, how do we back this up? Because under the rules, they amended it on second reading, but they couldn't go back to second reading because you can only go back to the previous one, which was third reading. So they broke their own rules to do it, and there's all kinds of, the parliamentarians going crazy and everything's going crazy. And it's late Saturday night. I really wanted to yell out, live from Charleston, it's Saturday night. But then the tears in people's eyes, in our educators' eyes, when they fixed it to the 4%, was heartbreaking, because everyone wanted to be back in their classroom with the kids. Then the next day, on Tuesday morning, 2 days later on Tuesday morning, let me back up. On Monday, so we asked our teachers and educators, we're not doing pickets in the counties now. Everybody come to the Charleston. Everybody come to the Capitol. They took me serious. I didn't think they'd be all coming, but they did. We closed the Capitol down at 11 o'clock with the number of people in it. And we had over 7,000 people outside the Capitol. 6,000 in, 7,000 out. And then what I really believe was the turning point happened, because the Senate still was sticking to the 4%, is the educators outside formed a chain completely around the Capitol. And one of our senators led us in prayer. Folks, prayer works, because the next morning, the Senate says, we'll give you the 5%. About 3:30 that afternoon, the governor signed the bill, and he gave the first copy of the bill to the Speaker of the House, who deserved it, but he gave the second copy and the third copy to me and our Executive Director, David Haney. Wasn't expecting a little emotion here. But I gave my copy in a frame to my daughter, and it hangs in her room. And she proudly says, I stood up for public education. Yeah, we've been asked to talk to a lot of people in a lot of states. I've been in Oklahoma, Indiana, I've been on the phone to several other states. But in Arizona, I've talked a lot to Joe Thomas, the president in Arizona. And when they were first talking about doing something in Arizona, the press asked him, said, President Thomas, did the West Virginia teachers give you hope? And he said it best, and I have to give him the quote. He said, no, they didn't give us hope. They made us believe. And belief is so much stronger than hope. Well, folks, I, like you, believe that our students are much more than a test score. Like you, I believe that our students are our future, and we have to do everything we can to provide them the resources and the best people in front of them, the best teachers, the best educators that we can get, and put them in front of those kids, because they will be the future. And like you, I believe in public education. I like to believe that we've changed the world, but this is just the beginning. When we all stand together and say enough is enough, then we truly know that we have changed the world. Folks, I believe in you. I believe in what you do, and I thank you for what you do every day. And thank you for having me. Thank you, Madam President.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads.
I also know the Twisted Sister song you played earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, who would think that the song that Pete played over and over in your head is Twisted Sister?
Well, you know. I'm so grateful that you're here, Dale. I was fortunate enough, I've talked to you and seen you and heard your story. And last week when Dale and I were at NEA, Lily, the president, had Dale and Stephanie, the president of Kentucky, and Alicia, president of Oklahoma, and Joe, the president of Arizona, and Carrie, president of Colorado, come and address us. And a few of the presidents got very emotional because you could just hear it when they relive it, the stress that they have been under and that their members have been under. And through their leadership and your leadership, Dale, you did amazing things in your states. And so I'm so glad that you are there with me. And we're not very far away. I think you're just one state over, down, so.
Cincinnati's still part of West Virginia.
Yes, yes. So Dale is going to be staying until tomorrow here, so he'll be here at the RA. So he told me he's willing to talk to anybody, who's willing to talk or ask him questions. So he is going to be here. So if you see him around, come up and introduce yourself and tell him where you're from and just talk to him. So thank you so much, Dale.
Thank you. And for those that know me, I'll be in the back because I don't.
Yes, he
I
doesn't.
Don't like the front.
Yes, that's right. He is. He's always in the back. Okay. Thanks, Dale.
Older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads, take me home.
Okay. Okay. I haven't heard John Denver for a long time, but I gotta tell you, I grew up with John Denver. It's kind of nice to hear that. I like John Denver. I don't believe John Denver gets the credit he deserves. It's like he's been gone and no one remembers him, but a lot of good times. I recognize the delegate at microphone 3.
Lisa Gunler, Credentials Committee. I would like to move that we seat Elizabeth Adebele as a delegate.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Stand up.
Lori Moody, Dayton Education Association. I second the motion.
Okay, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of seating Delegate Elizabeth and Dadelay, Okay, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. Ayes have it. Elizabeth, you're seated. Welcome. Oh, and then NEA directors, Carol Price does need your help, so if you would go to the voting area as soon as you can, she'd appreciate that. And then, Chair recognizes the delegate at microphone 3.
Thank you, Madam President. Ed Whitaker, Howland Local Classroom Teachers, Trumbull County, NEOEA. The theme is clear with everything that we've done for the past decade or more, and this morning. We need to have our voices heard, and we need to elect pro-public education candidates. I'm happy this morning to recognize an individual, a 23-year veteran intervention specialist from Howland who took that to heart. He came to me last year and he said, I think I'm going to run for the House seat that's coming up. It's the 59th district, Poland. And he said, but in the outside chance that I win, I want to stay an active teacher. I've done the research. It looks like I'd probably have to miss 40-some days for leave of absence. And what do you think? I said, well, you know what? Let's talk to the superintendent. Let's talk to the board president and see what they'd say. And we sat down and talked out some hypotheticals and whatnot, and they thought that we could possibly work something out where if this individual was to move forward, they could stay an active teacher. So he went out and pounded the pavement for the last year, reached out to every single union president, every single school employee he could talk to in his district, and he also went out and he won the OEA nomination as an endorsed candidate. The OEA became an OEA endorsed candidate in front of the screening committee. Sorry. And I'm happy to say that on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, he won the Democratic nomination for the House 59th House District. And when he wins in the general this November, he will, to my knowledge, become, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the only OEA member who will simultaneously remain an active teacher and serve in the Ohio House. He's also, of course, I had to get him down here as a delegate this year. He is an elected delegate, and I'd just like to recognize him and introduce him to the floor.
Sure.
If I could. He's over there. I had him wear blue today so you'd see him. Eric Ungaro, Democratic OEA endorsed nominee for the 59th House District. An active teacher who is, when he wins in the fall, will represent us, remain an active teacher in the Ohio State House.
Good job.
And the reason none of us are wearing red today, I have to take one for the team. I told my delegates, I said, guys, I got 4 really nice red t-shirts. I had a leftover from this fundraiser. I washed them, I steamed them, I hung them up, and they're still hanging in my laundry room as I ran out when they picked me up without them. So that's on me. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to say also that because of the actions in Oklahoma, by the end of their work action, they had, I believe it was 40 of their members signing up to run for public office. And then Kentucky, likewise, at the end of theirs, had over 20. So people are stepping up, and I'm just so glad to hear that one of our own is going to be doing the same thing. So there's no more business to come before the RA before we go to lunch. So at 12:09, I will say we will adjourn and come back at 2:09. Thank you. I guess officially. Oh, I forgot about that.
And a man wearing a t-shirt said Virginia is for